signed. Actually, at that time it was, as he said, Honorable Sam Kutesa, was the Minister of Foreign Affairs, was the President of the UN General Assembly, and Uganda chaired all the global negotiations for the SDGs. But also Ndugu Rwakana Rugunda, the Prime Minister then, signed on behalf of Uganda on the Paris Agreement. So as I was really, I've been at the front end of that. As I said, I am a member of civil society, and I've been so much, involved in promoting, climate action, and especially among young people and the sustainable development goals. What I may say is that sustainable development goals are clustered in 5 P's. Those are what we call the 5 P's for planet SDGs, people SDGs, prosperity SDGs, peace SDGs, and partnership. There are 17 in number, but in 5 themes. So the planet SDGs are where we have SDG 13 on climate action, then SDG 14 on life on land, but also SDG 15 on life underwater. So if you're going to have a discussion on the SDGs, then you have to talk about how they are in the thematic areas. What he didn't say is that I'm also the national coordinator of the Environment and Climate Change thematic group at the National Coalition of Human Rights Defenders, where I was voted on the General Assembly just last month. And my mandate is to ensure that I put together all people who are involved in environment and climate change in Uganda. And to that effect, really, I think when my brother Ndugu Peter invited me to share with you, I was really humbled, and I said I have to, despite my tight schedule. Just this morning I was in TV. I'm running out to meet with the UN Special Rapporteur on environment and climate change. So the work is quite enormous, but I'm happy that through the good work of the CMC, many of you are coming on board to ensure that we all get involved. I'll just talk about 5 the East African Treaty. And I want to invite all of us to interest ourselves.
This is now
that
the work plan, how we shall
because
be moving.
It is that
by this year,
that
2022,
gives the mandate to each and every East African government to be able to participate in all the processes that we undertake. And what is very surprising, Mr. Moderator, is that the SDGs, which is Agenda 2030, is in line with the integration agenda, which is 2030. So you can see there's that bit of, and if you see this is 2022, it means that we have actually only now 8 years to go. And that means that now we may need to fast track. I was telling you, Peter, that I first got involved interfacing with in the East African fast tracking process as early as 2007. At that time, the Yara MPs were General Muchamuntu. I remember I first interfaced, I started from Mundiera High School, so he's my OP, if you went to Mundiera High School. So I first interfaced with them, then started discussing that. So I got involved and so interested. So SDGs, which is 2030, and the agenda for East Africa of 2030 goes hand in hand. So that treaty, the East African Treaty, is the guiding instrument that brings together all the East African countries. But for us who are involved in the activities of climate change, we have what we call the East African Climate Change Policy. And I want to, probably I will share it with Peter for your benefit. Now, the East African Climate Change Policy has 2 important aspects. One, it talks about the issue of climate impact assessment within East Africa. But it also talks about something very important, responsible and sustainable investment within the East African region. Okay? So as we were talking about issues of monetary integration and all those trade and all those things, they must be guided by that East African climate change policy. And to that effect, it directly ties into the role of young people, because it talks about the issue of youth at crossroads. Yes, he has very well explained, and I want to thank you really, the great work that as ambassadors you are doing, and the deputy, the lady at the back. You know, I was already concerned from UK, rather from Sweden. Our very own Vanessa Nakate from here, from Uganda. There's a government seats, there's some other.
You can actually visit us.
So guys, young women, and then the global south are we. Sub-Saharan Africa, East Africa, you know. Now, the discussion within the climate change is the issue of emissions. Who is emitting what? Ndugu Peter, who is emitting what, and who is causing this climate change? And the number 1 cause of climate change are what we call the greenhouse gases.
greenhouse emissions, which are as a result of, some of you are well versed with the Industrial Revolution. When there was that Industrial Revolution, that you find now that the global north, which is the developed one, is the one which is emitting over 98% of the emissions. US and China alone, they emit over 55% of the global emissions. Instead, we as Africa, East Africa, we only emit only 3% because we are less industrialized. But according to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change and Global Warming, they show that we, incidentally, we who have not caused this problem, we are more vulnerable and more susceptible to the climate disasters. Why? Because we are less developed. You have seen, for example, where climate disasters have hit, for example, in Bududa and our people in Kasese, where there are always disasters. Our people are made homeless. We have climate refugees. We have people who are because we don't have systems in place. We don't have a climate fund. We don't have a response mechanism. And therefore, as East Africa, we must ensure, as per the instrument provided, to see how do we prepare ourselves for these disasters. And to that effect, there are three things, moderator. In the climate change, we have what we call climate mitigation, climate adaptation, and nature-based solution. Now, for us, as East Africa, because we are less developed, we must focus on what we call adaptation. Because we cannot say we are going to mitigate. Mitigate what? So we have to focus on how we engender adaptation and nature-based solution, which is called ecological restoration, ecological stability. Okay? And I am very happy issues that are affecting our people, our communities, especially issues of environment and climate change. Because we all see that climate change is not only a threat in Uganda, not only also in East Africa, but globally it is an existential threat. And one of the causes of climate change is the effect of greenhouse gases, which are caused by industrialization. And when we support industrialization, but we support what we call sustainable development, where you have development that is aimed at sustainable use of the environment. Now, in East Africa, and Uganda in particular, we have a very big challenge of deforestation. Where, for example, by 1990, we had the forest cover in Uganda was about 24%. But the reports from NFA show that in the last 15 years, the forest cover has gone from 24% to only now 8%. Now, that is a very big threat. It means that if we make the projection where we are going, time is going to come when we shall not have any forest. And the biggest thing, for example, like now, Bugoma Forest, which is under threat, what we did for us as citizens and civil society is that once NEMA issued the certificate of environmental impact assessment, we went to the High Court of Uganda and sued alongside the Environment Shield, Resource Rights Africa, and Uganda Law Society. We sued NEMA and the Attorney General of Uganda and also challenged it that such a certificate should have put into consideration issues of ecological restoration, issues of how are they going to ensure that there is a biodiversity conservation. Because see, for us as Uganda, our biggest revenue is tourism. We earn about $1 billion to our economy through tourism. And we want to make sure that we conserve this wildlife because these forests are home to the wildlife. And any threat on the forest in a country, Uganda, is a threat to the entire ecosystem of the East African region. And that is why we also went to the East African Court of Justice to challenge that certificate that was issued to the developer about sugarcane plantation in the area which is gazetted for Bugoma Forest. And the Bugoma Forest is not only a resource for Uganda, it is a resource for East Africa. All East Africans must be concerned about issues of deforestation. Because if you have the ecosystem of a certain country which is affected, then the entire region is going to be affected. We know that East Africa is a home to the Great Lakes region. We have Lake Victoria, we have River Nile. So any threat on the entire water cycle and the environmental chemistry of the area, it affects the entire region. And we think that is an issue that should be mainstreamed in the entire East African integration agenda. Because as East Africa, we have what we call the climate change policy, which all the East African countries are signatory to. So if, for example, we watch on when these deforestations are going on, when we see that the wetlands are being encroached on and the governments don't become very tough, it means that the next generation is going to find when the entire environment has been affected. And for us as civil society, we are speaking out and we are saying governments must be alert, and we hope that the East African Court of Justice is going to stand with the side of the East Africans and ensure that the environment is conserved. It is okay to have development. For example, we have the Eco Project, the East African Crude Pipeline project. It is a very good thing because it is going to improve the GDP of the East African region. However, our concern as environmentalists is such a project is going to have a far-reaching effect on the ecosystem of the region. Because you see that it is going to pass through what you call ecologically fragile areas. For example, you have 80% of it going through Tanzania, you have 20% of it going through Uganda. And we are saying, can we ensure that if this project is going to take place, we have what you call sustainable responses to ecological disasters? Because once climate change hits, it doesn't know anybody. And the most vulnerable people are the ones who are going to be affected the most. And that's why in the previous the attempt to have the East African Federation, East African Community during the time of the President Obote and Nyerere, it didn't succeed because the ordinary citizens who are supposed to be the ones integrating were not involved. So what we call upon is that it should be the East African integration agenda is a very good thing, but it should be citizen-driven. It should be us, we Ugandans, the Kenyans, the Tanzanians, the people in the DRC, they should be the ones who are integrating and coming together and ensuring that they want to see that they come together because of the interests, because of the common, because the truth of the matter is that there are more things that unite us in East Africa than those that separate us. So these boundaries, we see them as imaginary, but it should be the people who are coming together, not the presidents who are forming like a club. And to that effect, there should be a connection. This disconnect between the people and the East African governments must be revised because we need the East Africans to be the ones who are integrating around the common market, around issues of trade, around issues of common currency, around issues of environment and climate change, wildlife conservation, natural resource governance, issues of human rights, issues of good governance and rule of law. Those are the ones. Eranga ekindese wano leero tubadde tugera ku nsonga ez'obutonde bw'ensi n'enkyukakyuka y'obudde omuzungu kyayita climate change. Ate nga tumaze okukaanya ffenna nga teweeyetemyemu ne tulaba nti ensonga ez'obutonde bw'ensi n'ensonga z'enkyukakyuka y'obudde ffenna zitukwatako. Kubanga nsonga zino zikwata ku muntu yenna Ssekinnoomu, kubanga tugenda okulaba nti nga wano mu Uganda ne mu Africa yonna okutwaliza wamu. Ensonga ezisinga okusoosowazebwa nsonga za ebyobulimi. Abantu baffe abasinga abali mu byobulimi be basinga nnyo okukosebwa nnyo ensonga z'obutonde bw'ensi. Tulabye obudde obusinga nga abantu waliwo embeera y'okuba nga waliwo omusana omungi, waliwo enkuba ennyingi, ate kati n'osanga nti abantu baffe abali mu byalo ababanga bafuna akasente kaabwe n'emmere okuva mu byobulimi bebasinga okukosebwa nnyo. Kati netugeramu ne tugamba nti bwe tubanga tusoosowaza ensonga zino kye tulina okukola, tulina okulaba nga abantu bavaayo nnyo ku nsonga z'obutonde bw'ensi n'ensonga z'enkyukakyuka y'obudde. Era ne tugamba nti abantu babeere basaale nnyo, naddala ne tukubira n'omulanga gavumenti nti gavumenti ebeere nsaale nnyo okulaba nga obutonde bw'ensi bukuumibwa butiribiri. Naddala ng'ebibira byaffe tulabye nti ng'ekibira kya Bugoma Forest nga bamusigansimbi bagenda kitwala. Era NEMA yavaayo nebawa certificate negamba nti muli baddembe ogenda mu maaso ne mubuteekako ebikajjo. Kikaffe tubuuza nti kakati kikyo tulina okusoosowaza okuuma ekibira kyaffe ekibaddewo emyaka n'emyaka oba okuteekawo ebikajjo ate tusanga tufiiriddwa. Ate ng'abantu kye balina otegeera nti bino ebibira birungi nnyo kubanga bitwala omuka omubi ogwa carbon dioxide. Ate kakati ffe abantu twetaaga nnyo omuka ogwa oxygen ogw'obulamu. Kati ojja kusanga nti ebibira n'abantu balina okubeera nga balina enkolagana, nti tewasobola kubeerawo abantu ng'ebibira tebiriiwo, tewasobola kubeerawo ebibira ng'abantu, kubanga byonna ffenna tubeera mu mbeera yakubanga tubeerawo wamu. Kati n'osanga nti ensonga y'obutonde bw'ensi nsonga nkulu nnyo era nsaale nnyo, era buli muntu yenna mu East Africa ne mu Africa y'okwaliza wamu alina ogyenyigiramu. Ensonga endala eriwo nga naye efuuse kalumanywera y'ensonga y'okulaba nga abannansi aba East Africa beenyigira mu nteekateeka za gavumenti zonna. Naddala kati ng'eno ensonga eriwo y'okulaba nti ffenna ng'amawanga ga East Africa tujja wamu ne tuteeka ebirowoozo wamu, tulaba butya bwe tugenda mu maaso nga tutambulamu mu mugendo olaba nti tukulaakulanira wamu. Kubanga tulaba nti Omuganda agamba nti agalumirwa wamu ge gali ennyama. So ogenda okulaba nti bannakenya bwe bajja ne bannayuganda ne tujja ne batanzania ne bajja olwatu twalabye ne DRC nayo ng'etwegasseeko kijja tuyamba okulaba nga tusoosowaza ensonga zaffe ezitukwatako ng'abantu ate ne tugezaako n'okulaba nga tukuuma emirembe kubanga bwobanga Rwanda efumye obuzibu tusagenda ntugirwanira kyokka eyo enkola eyo nayina okuba nga esoosowaza abantu nga be bali wakati mu kutambuza ekintu ekyo so si gavumenti oba abantu abali waggulu okusanga nti batambuza ekintu ate abantu ba bulijjo nga balekeddwa emabega so tulaba nti kintu kirungi era tukiwagira era tulaba nti bannayuganda bonna bonna ne ba East Africa bonna bakinyigiremu ate nga tutwala mu maaso.
In Benin, in a year between 1884 and 1885, you know the history of what came. Uganda was under British, Kenya was under British, Tanzania was under British. There was a company who remember vividly the IBECO, the company that was in charge of these nations. Now the white man realized that these nations cannot develop not until they are fully united. That's how in 1917 we had the custom union between Uganda and Kenya fully functioning, of which Tanganyika by then actually joined in 1927. So this white man wanted these nations to unite, knowing that a country like Uganda, which is a landlocked country, cannot develop. And besides that, when the map was parceled out in Benin, it separates the cultures and tribes. We had our tribes in Kenya. That's why you find when you go to Kenya, the near borders of Busia, these people are almost the Joris. When you go to, they speak the same language, they hear each other. The same people. When you go to Karamoja, for example, the Turkana in Kenya, they speak the same language. Do you know that Kisumu was part of Uganda? So, why am I taking you back to that history? When the white man came, he had to follow the spirit of of those the other men that managed to rule these nations between 200 years, and their rule disappeared. So in 1948, we had the East African the East African High Commission, which ran from 1948 up to 1961. The same process we followed. That was still under the rule. We are actually by then was still under the leadership of the colonial masters. Why do they do that? Because they had to follow the route. Then, after our countries gained independence in 1962, in the 7th June, our leaders, here in Uganda we had the President Obote. In Kenya we had Kenyatta. In Tanzania we had President Julius Kambarage Nyerere. They sat in Nairobi, and they declared that East Africa, these three nations, have to be united. We are being motivated by the spirit of Pan-Africanism, not the spirit of patriotism. 7. We had the full East African community, but along the way, 10 years later, it collapsed due to differences. There was a lack of political will. There was a lack of participation of civil society. There was a lack of participation of private sectors. But the spirit could not stop. It started in the middle, and our voices can be heard, and the leaders now can be in front to finalize the process. That's what we say. That people accepted, leaders accepted the process as we're sensitizing them. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Our company at a higher level, way too quick than it is reflected in the mass population. Yet, indeed, if we say that the integration process should be people-driven and people-centered, we think that it should be a bottom-up approach, not the other way around. The other conversation was around popularization of this, that it might not be easy for them to print out. And we also have members from other sectors, the economic sector and also the farming world. I want to believe that I have represented all of us here. Yes, Honorable Member of Parliament, I now want to invite you, noting that now...
And I want to salute my chair, Honorable Katashumba, for having delegated me to do this role on his behalf. I want to report to you that in Parliament we have a committee that takes care of issues of East Africa. Officially, if you didn't know it before, know it from me today. So government puts the resources in making sure that matters of East Africa are taken care of. At Parliament we have a forum, PIACA, Parliamentary Committee on East African, Parliamentary Forum on East African Affairs, PIACA. That forum was established around 2018 because we thought for us to complement the activities of the committee, the formal committee of Parliament, we needed a forum where members of Parliament who have interest on integration of East Africa come and discuss. So ours is to provide a platform. And I can tell you, we have a membership well over 80 members of Parliament. That is not a small force. Therefore, as a team here, you have the backing. Where you want to access the Parliament, that is the right channel. Sometimes you look at that house and then you fear. When you see the police, you think, when you reach there, they will arrest you. You are not a criminal. You have not done anything. That house, it is for all of us. And it is there because of people's taxes. You just refuse to pay taxes just for a few days. You will see that the house is no longer there. So what you do every day is what counts into what is happening there every day. So as citizens, we first of all as Parliament want to applaud you. Uganda cannot move without the citizens because you are the ones ultimately who decide. You are the ones ultimately who pay the taxes. Let me appreciate all the participants, the academia, and those from the media. Allow me to appreciate Smart TV, because I think in Uganda and East Africa, Smart has decided to go to that niche of reporting on business issues. I think that's the kind of specialization that now we need as East Africa. Now for me, I'm reducing my talk about Uganda. I'm now going wider. As East Africans, if we want to climb mountains and get through, let people now specialize. I'm happy that for you, Smart, you are now coming out to say, let us report on business issues. So whoever is targeting issues of business should be able, you wake up in the morning, switch on the TV, put the channel to Smart. Because you know, for you a businessman, if you want to get quick information on business in East Africa, Africa and the world, go to Smart. Those who want to go for sports issues, I have seen that LDS, for instance, has had a new initiative where they have dedicated a full TV channel for 24-hour sports. I think that's the smartness that we want to attain. We are now going East Africa, widening and deepening the integration. So it only happens when people get to know what is happening. So the role of media cannot be overemphasized, because they are the ones who should be able to open people's eyes so that people get to see what is happening. I'm happy that in your vision, we are saying that we envisioned 2030 of having one country, EAC. And in the vision, a call to all East African citizens to participate in the integration journey. I think that is very, very important. If we are talking about a people-centered East Africa, it means you start from even the unborn up to those who are about to exit. I think that is very, very important. In Uganda, if we are talking about our national parliament, it is within our vision also to be a people-centered parliament. So it resonates very well with the CMC and people-centered leaders accelerate the process of integration by 2030. Currently, as we talk, we are discussing the SDGs at the Serena Hotel. I'm supposed to be there. I think I'll be speaking at around 2 p.m. So it also resonates well with the 2030 here. So SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, is something of international nature. But within the international ranks, we are a bloc of East Africa. So how quick are we moving? It is time for us to involve the citizens, and I want to appreciate CMC for championing this move. I didn't know that we had people who can think about other people. Oh, until I came here. Now you are thinking brightly. You qualify to be in parliament without even disturbing yourself, looking for votes, or you qualify to be there. That's the kind of thinking that we must start to have. So as citizens, East Africa will come with huge opportunities. Huge opportunities. I have seen people struggling for contracts in districts, in the councils, in the municipals. They are looking at the same contracts. People are even now raising conflict because of struggling for business internally. Yet there is a lot of business in East Africa. There is a lot we can do in Nairobi. Congo is too fast. There is a lot that we can do with the Congo. There is a lot in Rwanda, Kigali. Who said Kigali is bad? Kigali belongs to us. Sudan is a big business area. It's only the issue of insecurity that is taking East Africa back. Yesterday, I heard that there was a resolution. I think President Kenyatta, who is the current chair of our heads of state, the summit, directed that we are going to deploy a force, East African standby force, in the DRC to handle the situation for insecurity there, the conflict in Congo. So that is the level that we must be able to reach. We must have some sort of strategic security for the bloc. We can only thrive when there is security and safety for people who are moving. Get concerned about communication in EAC. If you go to Kenya today, if you go to Tanzania, try to call back home. Check your phone if you have loaded some airtime of 10,000. Tell me the results. I want you to practice and do it one time and then you report to me. Go to Tanzania, call back home with that 5,000 you loaded while you were leaving Uganda. Tell me what happens. That airtime is eaten up within the shortest time possible. Within the shortest time possible. How do we do business if we are not able to communicate? Those are some of the barriers to be dealt with. Do we still have an opportunity to have our professionals go to other partner states and do work? Do we demand for work permits for Ugandans who want to work in Congo, who want to work in Kenya, who want to work in South Sudan? Those who want to work in Tanzania, do we need work permits? There is another issue of vehicles that cross the borders. When the time that they have given you is elapsed, people try their best to drive. If you are in Nairobi, for instance, in Kenya, you drive up to the border, cross the border into Uganda to register like you came, and then you went back. Haven't you noticed such things? Those are some of the barriers. There are so many. We are talking about the political federation. Have we reached that maturity? We have seen situations where Ugandans have tried to export their agricultural produce to other countries. Recently, we had issues where we failed to get our maize crossed over to Kenya. And what was the issue? They said standards. What are we doing as East Africa to have standards which are for EAC and not for partner states as individual states? Those are some of the issues. So when I see that we have such initiatives of popularizing East Africa to the people and making it as a people-centered issue, my heart begins to breathe properly. Because really, that is the way to go. I think we are now becoming true East Africans. As we talk right now, I'm now carrying a passport which is bearing the title of East Africa. But before that, we didn't have it. So you should be able to see this. That is a sign of what? progress. Because now here it is saying East African Community. Then now you come down and say Republic of Uganda. That is the level we must be able to attain, even in terms of business. A contractor who does build schools in East Africa, but originating from Uganda. A transporter who is reliable within East Africa, but originating from Uganda. And then Kenya, and the rest. That is the level that we must be able to reach. And the issue of movement of goods, movement of people, must be protected. We must have our people move across the borders without any barriers. Action as East Africa, I have seen issues of traffic police becoming a menace. You cross over to a nearby country, I mean a partner state, everywhere they stop you, they want money, they are becoming too difficult. So how do we help the foreigners, those within the partner states, to move freely without barriers? But when we talk about these things, I can tell you, it's only you who knows about East Africa, maybe. Go and ask the person from Ukumi whether they have heard anything about it. You will just ask the first for CMC to go and teach those people so that they get to know what is happening around what? East Africa. So this initiative is not for you, it is for the people. And I want to assure you, as Parliament, we are there to support you. Anything that is lawful, we are not breaking the law, and is geared towards supporting our citizens. Parliament must be able to be there to support you. It begins with a few members of Parliament, it can be one, but it later will expand. Now that we have a forum in Parliament, your work is easy. So when you have issues, don't keep quiet. Those issues will become like ulcers on you. They will chew you and finish your heart. But tell us, and then we come and we share. That's our work. And for us, you know, our survival is using this one. We talk. When we talk, the government will have to respond. When the government responds, the people will benefit. But if the house keeps quiet, and now, of course, Muse said, go and look for cassava. We look for cassava, but let us be also mindful about what happens with our people. Yeah? Now it has become very difficult to chew bread. You have to look for what? Cassava. But even cassava has become what? Expensive. From the time Muse indicated that we hate the cassava, it has become the #1 commodity. The price is like they have put some tax on it. Yet it's a tax-free, just an announcement to validate its importance. That's where we are. So, but as citizens, let's put our energies together, and I'm happy that we have the academia. Those who are able to do research, support us with evidence, the business justification, so that we build our concepts together and justify the need for this.
Let me jump into the... So we are here.
So launching this so that we see progress. So shortest signatures in the world. I decided to do that by choice. So that in the event that your signature earns you maybe money or what, as people are struggling to sign for 2 minutes, you sign, go sign another one and you get money. So my name's Algon Silas. So I'm here as Member of Parliament representing the people of Kubi Municipality, but also the Vice Chair of PIACA, the Parliamentary Forum on East African Community Affairs, to join this team in launching CMC ESC 2030. The Citizens Mass Campaign, East Africa 2030. Allow me to sign. The date today? 17th of June. Because I don't want to quote the wrong man.
2022 just after.
Very good. Congratulations. And we are ready to go. So may God bless you give you support, open the doors. When you go and ask for support, let people not doubt you. May you be blessed and prosper this agenda in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. For God and my country.
Thank you so much. I like it when we go precise and straight to the point. It is exciting and as region integration. Okay.
Municipality, and I'm also the vice chair of the Parliamentary East African Community Affairs Forum in the Parliament, PIACA. And we are here to launch the CMC, that is the mass campaign on East Africa, the Agenda 2030, which we have just successfully done. And I'm happy to report that this event has been successful. But also to highlight a few of the challenges. And I do not want to talk about the rest of the challenges, but I just want to pick one that I thought is very, very critical on the issue of integrating East Africa. That is the issue of financing the Ministry of East African Community Affairs in Uganda here. We are like seeing a trend of reduction in the funding given by government to this particular committee. And you'll find that 2019-2020 had a budget which was well around 50 plus billion. But in the next year of 2020-2021, there's a reduction, if I'm not mistaken, around 39 billion. Then in the next year of 2021-2022, it even, I think, it came down. And then now for 2022-2023, it's around 31 billion. So that speaks volumes. It speaks volumes. Generally, the issue is the trend is negative. So as we are going in for the integration of East Africa, we should be seeing an increment, progressive increase in the budgeting for East Africa. But instead, we are realizing a negative trend where the budgeting is getting low and low. The resources are getting low and low. This is the time when we need these budgets. We need to bring Congo on board. Yes, the leaders first of all have said, yes, let us go to East Africa. But what are the real citizens of Congo saying about this? Are they aware about East Africa and the benefits? Are they not asking other questions? In South Sudan, are the citizens aware about the need for East Africa and what it brings on the board for them? Those are some of the questions. In Kenya, yes, Kenya is like in the center. They are like in their parents because economically Kenya is huge. What do they think about East Africa? Do they think that others will come and poach resources from them, or they think integration will even help them more? What happens with Tanzania? What happens with the political federation? What is people's reaction? We are talking about the customs union. How far are we? Who is sharing the status? What about the visibility of ESC issues? Who is helping us to bring them to the rooftop for everybody to know what is happening? So in terms of employment, where are we? Professionals, are they able to take their services across the borders? Communication, are we able to standardize our rates of communication, even just by mobile telephones? Are we able to? So that is the maturity that we are seeking. So I am happy to have been a part of the launch of this particular intervention.
The other platforms,
so I think
like
the
the
sky is the
YouTube,
limit.
where
Thank you so
the
much.
YouTube, the Twitter.
Yes, first of all, we had an estimated population of around 183 million people. But with the coming of DRC, now we have a population of well over 300 million shillings. That is not a mean achievement, because such a population gives you the back in terms of market. Now Ugandans can produce, and if the security situation is improved, you will have a market where you are going to sell your goods. When you have a market for the goods, I can tell you automatically, you will now have employment for the youth. But where the industries are not working, production is low, there will be nobody to provide you with the jobs. Government alone cannot employ everybody. We need to be in business. And I can tell you, compare with the business people, compare them to the politicians, compare them to the teachers, the civil servants. Business people who are thriving are always at the top. Tell me about the people who are rich in town and count for me the number of civil servants, if they have not stolen money from government. Those who are genuinely rich, they are nearly not there. It is the business people. So let us not take issues of business for granted, and therefore East Africa should be made real. Let us widen and deepen the integration. That is what we need. Market is for East Africa, and it should be made real. Thank you. Standards. Yes, we have here UNBS, for instance. We have UNBS for Uganda. But what about the rest of the partner states? What are we doing? The trade ministers within East Africa should be sitting, must be sitting to discuss and ask questions around standards. How do we make sure that the partner states live up to the expectation before we talk of selling to EU, selling to US, to CFTA? Can we first talk about being able to trade within ourselves, the intra-trade between the East Africa partner states? So the issue of standards is critical. Today we have a lot of counterfeits also in our region, and that is an issue. People do not become confident of East Africa when we don't observe standards. So we must all rise up to the occasion and make sure that we defend the standards of our products and be sure to give quality products to our citizens.
Region integration.
People-centered leaders accelerate the process of integration by 2030. And our vision, we envision that by 2030, East Africa should be fully united. That's where we need to have one head of state. We need to have one currency. We need to have a foreign policy. We need to have all the systems of fully functioning. That's our target. And our mission, it's a call for all citizens across the 7 member states. That is Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Burundi, Rwanda, South Sudan, and Congo, for the population of over 300 million to come together, and then we embrace the East African integration. This is our target, that by 2030 we can achieve, as long as we can join our hands together. So why Citizen Mass Campaign is coming at this time? Basing on the history that I have taken you through, these attempts of uniting East Africa has been there, but has somewhere along the way it collapses. So now that's why we came up with this initiative. It's an Pan-African initiative in trying to energize us, all the citizens to come in board to accelerate themselves, to demand the integration sooner than later. Our main objective of this CMC EAC 2030, our main objectives, there are 3. 1, understanding the East African integration. Second objective, as demanding the integration to happen sooner than later. And the third objective, it is people-centered and sustainability. As long as we can understand what the East Africa is all about, we demand that as we are in the middle, and then we sustain it for the benefit of the region. That's what we intended to do, and that's why I'm confronting this. I am not the only one, but I have the backup, only that I have given this opportunity to speak before you.
How have the youth benefit from the integration?
Integration, it is people-centered. Youth can apply depending on what level of education you attain, the qualification that you have, then you get an opportunity. But also, why is this integration going to be useful to the youth? Because the youth are actually taking a big number, the big population. So if they can, because there are so many activities they can involve in, we have there is culture, there is sports, of which the East African community finances. So they can position themselves there. And also it's good that if I'm a youth in Uganda, I can be able to move to Kenya and do business there, or South Sudan, or Rwanda, or Burundi, so if these countries are fully united. Because the process can be the economic, but the whole of it is the political. Because you cannot unite countries economically without political. So if these nations have been united politically at first, political as an apex body, then the rest would have solved themselves.
Two last one. How do you intend to roll out the mass campaign? And secondly,
They have to be Africans. Why? Because when you look at the statistics, since the aid, the way how it has been flowing into African economies, it is more than $1 trillion that have been injected in African economies, but little has been achieved. So now we want to borrow the spirit of Pan-Africanism, that if Africa and the citizens themselves, they have to finance their own projects for the betterment of the development of the continent, starting with the East African community. So MCEAC 2030, oba bwe tukiteeka mu lufuutufuuti kijuzibwa nti Citizen Mass Campaign East Africa 2030. Ekiruubirirwa kyaffe kyokulaba nti kino ekisinde kitambuze eno campaign okulaba nti omwaka gw'onaatuukira 2030 nga ffe ekirowoozo kyaffe kigamba oba ekirooto kyaffe kigamba nti East Africa okusinziira kati ebiriwo kulaba nti ekyasooka okukolebwa nga Custom Union era weera already ebisinga byonna byakolebwako common market oba kitwandiyise okugamba nti okufuna akataala kawamu era ebisinga byonna byakolebwako kakati ate kituyita monetary union oba ekyesente z'awamu monetary union ekyesente z'awamu era okusinziira programu eriwo okusinziira nti 2024 era tutandika okukozesa currency eyo ate n'ekisembayo eri ekya political federation oba okufuna omukulembeze w'awamu kaakati kino ekisinde kyakugezaako okulaba nti omuntu munansi ave ekyana mukaaka ave koboko ave kuumi ava Tanzania ava Burundi ava Kenya ava Rwanda ava South Sudan oba Congo amanya omugaso gwa East Africa kyekiki ye ng'omuntu bw'aba ng'azze ng'ayingidde mu East Africa kiki kyayinza okufunamu ye ng'omuntu kyekitugezaako okusomesa abantu nze mu East Africa kati kiki ekinyinza okufunamu kakati nti bwe tuba nga tutandise okusuubula kati kiba kirungi nnyo gwe ng'omuntu nti bwe mba nga ndi wa Tanzania nsobola okusuubula ebintu byange n'embitwala Kenya naye nga tewali ankwata ku mukono so ekyo kintu kirungi nnyo bwe tuba nga njagadde okuva katugeze kati nga wano ogende e Rwanda ninfunayo obutuuze kiba kirungi oba ninfuna omulimu naye nga talina asobola okunkwata ku mukono kati ekisinde kino kyakulaba nti abantu bamanya omugaso gwa East Africa kyekiki ate nabo bennyini okulaba nti bejumbira mu kino ekintu ate bakisabe okulaba nti bakisabe nnyo okulaba nti kino ekintu nga bwe kizze kisomeseza era nga bwe nzirayo eri nti omugaso ekintu kino kiri tuyina ekitwandiyise objectives bwe kino ekintu oba bye tutambulirako biri bisatu ekisooka twagala banna East Africa basukka miliyoni 3 okutegeera East Africa kyekiki kuba bwe kigazi sijja kugenda mu eyo ekyokubiri ogamba nti tutegedde naye kati ate ffe tukisabye tutya ekintu ekyo okulaba nti tusobola okukifuna mu biseera ebyokumpimpi ekyokusatu ffe tumaze okukisaba kati kikuume ekintu kyaffe oba sustainability sustaining it tukikuume tube nakyo kuba lyekkubo lyesobola okuyamba ffe n'ensi zaffe okukulaakulana.
And how is this going to be tackled? How can it be tackled to have political federation yet to have state sovereignty? You gave an example of the borders.
It has been one of the hindrances that has not led the progression of political federation. That's why in 2018, actually towards the end of 2019, the leaders thought about it and they resulted into a political confederation as a transit political federation because and now we have seen it very clear because like what you see, like when our border, Uganda border was crossed, actually Uganda did not cross the border, but Uganda crossed the border. Now that because the East African community wouldn't come to enter in those issues, reason being these countries still retain their sovereignty. So that's why sometimes you see our leaders from one country and the other country coming together to resolve because of that sovereignty. And when our maize were stopped from going to Kenya because of aflatoxin and so on, we saw our leaders from this side, Uganda, and then Kenya coming to resolve the issues. And it should have been the body from the Secretariat to come and iron out that issue. And the body from the Secretariat, it is actually very clear and eloquent that talking about that challenge of sovereignty, there has been a relaxity of promoting
what we call governance protocol. It has been in shelf promoting governance, because if that promotion of governance protocol has been promoted, all these issues should have been ironed out. It should now, the body, the community, should be the one to come to resolve that. But there is that challenge, but now this campaign is now trying to awaken the spirit of people, of we East Africans, to raise our voices so that the Secretariat and Line Ministry to hear us and then resolve those issues. Because the more pressure we put on them, but that pressure is not going like we are trying to maybe to push government to do. No, we raise our voices. And someone would ask why we have had many initiatives.